Mr. Leonard, the owner of a tailor shop in town, was a skilled tailor from England. His craftsmanship was not only exquisite, but also incredibly unique. That's why his tailor shop was always bustling with customers. Mr. Leonard even specifically hired an assistant named Mabel to help him. This small shop had only 3 rooms and a restroom, yet it was located in the disputed territory of gangster factions. Over time, most of the people who frequented the shop were members of these gangs, and the tailor shop gradually became their secret contact point. These people were not like ordinary customers. They would go straight to the mailbox in the sewing room, stuff secret letters into it, then turn and leave without a word. Mr. Leonard never intervened or inquired. He simply focused on his tailoring work, not caring about outside matters. That day, the young Master Richie of the Boyle family, one of the biggest gangs in town, along with Francis, the second in command, came to the tailor shop as usual. It's worth noting that when Mr. Leonard first arrived in Chicago to open his shop, his very first customer was Roy Boyle, the boss of the Boyle family. Because Roy Boyle was very satisfied with Mr. Leonard's craftsmanship, members of the Boyle family frequently visited the shop. Just as the two were talking, Francis suddenly changed his expression because a symbol appeared on one of the envelopes. This symbol represented a mysterious organization called the Outfit. Even Richie's attitude shifted when he saw it. He sent Mr. Leonard outside. So Mr. Leonard quietly stepped out and closed the door. Perhaps he was too accustomed to this. Mabel, outside, didn't show any surprise upon seeing Mr. Leonard leave. She just took the opportunity to ask him her question. Why did Mr. Leonard open a tailor shop in such a conflict-ridden area of gangs? She felt that there were always troubles here. Mr. Leonard replied, "Troubles are everywhere. What matters is whether one can focus on their work or not." Just as the two were chatting, Richie and Francis emerged from inside. Before leaving, Richie bid Mr. Leonard farewell, and as he stepped out of the shop, the exchange of glances with Mabel suggested that their relationship was not normal at all. Mr. Leonard quietly observed everything, but didn't ask Mabel anything. Night fell, and the two tidied up the tailor shop. Mabel's shift also ended. Not long after, old Leonard slumped at his desk, falling asleep. In his dream, he saw his tailor shop engulfed in flames. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening startled him awake. It turned out to be Richie and Mabel returning to the tailor shop. Indeed, their relationship was not simple. They had been secretly dating at Leonard's shop. The old man hid behind the door, quietly listening to their conversation. At this moment, Richie expressed his dissatisfaction with Francis, the second in command of the gang. When Frank used his own body to shield old Boyle from 6 bullets, he placed his full trust in him and gave him the position of right-hand man. Old Boyle considered Frank family, and this made young Mabel very uncomfortable. While Richie was complaining about Frank to Mabel, in the inner room, Leonard suddenly dropped something. The sound immediately alerted Richie. Shouldn't old Leonard have left by now? Opening the door, he indeed saw Leonard slumped at his desk, sound asleep. Richie didn't care, simply assuming he had worried too much. Since Leonard was still there, the two decided to change their rendezvous point. Thus, 2 more days passed. The tailor shop still operated as usual, and the secret letters from the gang were still delivered regularly. However, today the Boyle family received a letter with a strange symbol. Inside, they found a cassette tape. At that time, this was a rare item. The two said nothing and quickly left the shop. Leonard, oblivious, focused on tailoring his suit as ordered. But in the evening, there was a sudden insistent knocking at the door outside. Opening it, he saw that it was Richie and Frank returning. Richie seemed to have been wounded by a gunshot. At the same time, blaring sirens sounded outside. It seemed the police were pursuing the two of them. Frank, without a second word, approached Leonard, threatening him to follow his arrangements. At this moment, Richie's wound was quite serious. The 3 quickly moved into the back sewing room. Frank decided to have Leonard stitch up Richie's wound. Although Leonard was just a tailor, Frank believed that the principles of stitching were the same. Under Frank's intimidation, Leonard had no choice but to grit his teeth and comply. He used strong alcohol to disinfect, then meticulously stitched the bleeding wound. Frank held Richie tightly as he struggled violently. Finally, when Leonard finished stitching the wound, Richie had fainted from the pain. After taking care of Richie, Frank prepared to leave the shop. He instructed Leonard to watch over Richie and the suitcase. His boss would arrive later. But Leonard didn't want to get involved in this matter. He advised Frank to take the suitcase with him. Frank said there were too many people outside for him to carry it conveniently. Seeing Frank determined to leave, Leonard said, "You don't know what they're doing and I don't want to judge, but I don't even know what's inside, nor do I understand why everyone is looking for it. If someone comes to the door, I have no way to dispel their suspicions, and I might even bring trouble upon myself." Frank hesitated for a moment, then said, Since they turned this place into a secret contact point, whether old boss wanted it or not, you're already considered one of the Boyle family. Then, regardless of whether Leonard wanted to hear it or not, Francis still revealed the secret in the box. It turned out that inside was a cassette tape, a new toy of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Someone had planted a listening device in the Boyle home and recorded all the family secrets. The content in this could be related to the survival of the entire family. This tape was supposed to be handed over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but unexpectedly, it was intercepted by the mysterious organization, The Outfit. Although he didn't know why they helped the Boyle family, this gave them an opportunity. The infuriating thing was that this informant also informed their sworn enemy, the Violet family. So now both the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Violet family were searching for them in this tape. Francis said he had to go find a playback device. After listening to the contents, they could not only find the location of the listening device, but also identify the informant. At the same time, Francis also said that Roy Boyle would arrive soon, instructing Leonard to guard the box and Richie. If anything happened to anyone, Leonard would surely lose his life. Having said that, he turned and left to find the device. Leonard just quietly watched him leave, hesitated a little, then opened the box. While Leonard continued to sew clothes, Richie woke up and came out from inside. He thanked Leonard for saving his life. Leonard, for his part, quickly explained that he didn't do anything. Richie still offered his thanks and considered Leonard trustworthy. Then he asked where Francis had gone. Leonard recounted what Francis had told him, that he had gone to find a tape player. Richie was surprised that Francis had revealed such an important secret to Leonard, but he didn't dwell on it. Next, the two sat down on the sofa to chat. Leonard began to recall meeting Richie's father when he first came here to open his shop. Then he, as if casually, asked Richie, "Who do you think it is? Who is it?" "The informant who betrayed your family." "I don't know. A smart young man like you must have some suspicions, right? It could be someone closely related to the family, but not necessarily a family member." After saying these words, Leonard saw Richie sink into contemplation. He then said that he wanted to reveal a secret to Richie. Leonard took off his glasses, pondered for a moment, then said, "I am the informant." As soon as he finished speaking, Richie burst out laughing. He said that Leonard's acting was really good, but he absolutely couldn't be the informant. Then Richie also laughed and said that he just wanted to ease Leonard's mental pressure, but he himself definitely had the potential to be an informant. But Richie still laughed and said that Leonard couldn't be because he was just a tailor. Hearing this, Leonard immediately said that he wasn't a tailor, but a cutter. There was a big difference between the two. Although Leonard explained meticulously, Richie didn't say anything more. At this moment, Leonard again said, "I hope your cousin doesn't get into trouble." Richie asked, "Are you talking about Francis?" "He's not my cousin." Leonard said, "You two look like family." This statement immediately made Richie uncomfortable. He hated Francis the most. Looking at the box on the table, he asked, "Where did Francis go anyway?" Leonard said, "Surely you don't suspect Francis, do you? If he was the informant, why would he volunteer to find the informant?" Finally, Leonard added, "He's family, almost family." These words clearly reminded Richie. Just then, the doorbell rang outside. Richie told Leonard to open the door. The person who entered was indeed Francis. Francis, seeing his troubled expression, asked, "What's wrong?" So Leonard said, "Young Master Richie has woken up, but he seems a bit delirious, mumbling something. Francis thought he could fool me." These words made Francis a little confused. When the door opened, Francis saw Richie seemed fine. He still asked Richie how he felt. Richie said, "Feeling great," and asked where Francis had gone. Francis said he had found the tape player and was about to go listen to it. Richie immediately said he wanted to go along, but Frank was worried about his health and told him to stay here and wait for news instead. This statement immediately made Richie suspicious. "So you're taking the tape yourself, right? That's it. Or how about this? Wait here for my father to arrive, and then we can listen to the recording together." Seeing the two begin to argue, Leonard quickly intervened. The result was not only that it didn't calm things down, but it also made Richie even angrier. He said, "At first, both of you went out together, but only I got hurt while their gun barrels seemed to have eyes, dodging Francis." Francis simply said that was his skill, but no matter how much he wanted to take the tape, Richie wouldn't agree. In the struggle, the two accidentally knocked the box over. But when it opened, it was empty inside. Both thought the other had hidden it. So Richie quickly pulled out his gun and pointed it at Francis. The two once again fell into an argument. Francis said that he had personally taken 6 bullets for Richie's father. But this statement hit a sore spot for Richie. He thought Francis wanted to use this to seize his position, so he immediately said Francis was worthless. In the midst of the argument, Leonard suddenly backed away. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and Richie was expertly brought down by Francis. Francis looked at Richie lying on the ground and said, "This kid is truly too foolish." Leonard stood by, horrified at the sight. But he didn't know that Francis was both searching for the tape and thinking of a way to pin Richie's death on Leonard. Clearly, he had developed murderous intent towards Leonard. Just then, the sound of a car approaching outside. Francis inwardly cursed, knowing his boss, Roy Boyle, had arrived. He told Leonard to help him stuff Richie's body into the box, and at the same time, threatened Leonard with death to open the door and stall Roy Boyle, while he himself dealt with the bloodstains on the scene. So Leonard slowly walked to open the door. He saw Roy Boyle, the boss of the Boyle family, standing at the door with a subordinate. After Roy Boyle entered, he first reminisced with Leonard, then asked where his son was. Leonard helplessly nodded, signaling inside. When Roy Boyle opened the door, Francis had already cleaned up the bloodstains and was just coming out of the restroom. Roy Boyle walked over and asked where Richie was. Because he had already heard that Richie had been wounded by the Violet family, he was very worried now. Although Francis was worried, he still lied. "Richie took the tape and went to find you, didn't he? Didn't you meet him?" Roy Boyle immediately became angry. He questioned Francis. "Why did you let my son go out alone?" Francis quickly explained that he had just gone out to find a tape player, and when he returned, he discovered that young master had left. So Roy Boyle first borrowed Leonard's phone to call home. After learning that his son hadn't returned, he told Francis to immediately go out and search, while he himself would stay here and wait for his son's call. After Francis left, Roy Boyle continued to reminisce with Leonard. The two even took out their cherished possessions. Leonard, in the past, had come here to open this tailor shop thanks to a pair of scissors. As for Roy Boyle, he had built the Boyle family thanks to the pistol in his hand. However, while reminiscing, Roy Boyle noticed something unusual. Why was his son's coat still hanging in the shop? It was winter now. No matter how foolish Richie was, he wouldn't go out without a coat. Roy Boyle questioned Leonard. "What exactly are you hiding?" Leonard still insisted he knew nothing. So Roy Boyle called his subordinate and gave Leonard 5 seconds to answer. Reluctantly, Leonard said that Francis had threatened him, saying that if he spoke out, Francis would kill him. Just as Leonard was about to tell Roy Boyle the truth, Mabel suddenly entered. Leonard didn't understand why Mabel was here at this hour. Francis stepped out, armed, and told Roy Boyle that this woman might know where Richie was. But Roy Boyle ignored him and continued to question Leonard. However, just as Leonard was about to speak, Francis pointed his gun at Mabel. To protect Mabel, Leonard said, because before that, Francis had killed people from the Violet family, and Richie not only didn't take action but was also injured by the other party. This made him feel ashamed. Richie said that he had to go regain his honor, which is why he hastily left here. Before leaving, he told me to keep this matter a secret. When Francis found the device and returned here, Richie had already left, which is why what happened next occurred. Francis seized the opportunity and said, "Richie must have gone to this girl Mabel's house, because she is Richie's girlfriend." But Mabel denied that Richie had come to her place. Francis tried to force Mabel to confess, but was stopped by Roy Boyle. In the conversation with Mabel, Roy Boyle discovered that Mabel's father had also once been his subordinate. Although he was dead, he was still the child of an old acquaintance. Roy Boyle still asked her when she last saw Richie. Mabel said it was this morning, but Francis said she was lying, and at the same time, he slandered Mabel, suggesting she might be the informant. She took advantage of being with Richie to extract the family's secrets. Seeing that the situation was not good, Leonard quickly stepped forward to explain for Mabel. But Roy Boyle had already grown suspicious. He still told his subordinate to take Mabel inside for questioning. Just like that, Leonard watched Mabel being led away. He turned to look at the box beside him. Richie's body was inside. At the same time, Francis noticed his unusual behavior and stepped out to stop him. Roy Boyle also said that no one was allowed to leave until they found out where his son was. Leonard wanted to explain a few more words when the phone in the shop suddenly rang. Roy Boyle told Leonard to answer it. Then, under everyone's watchful eyes, Leonard excitedly chatted with Richie on the other end of the line. Then he became even more excited, stepping out and saying that it was young Master Richie's call. At the same time, he wrote down an address. Leonard said, "Young Master is holding the tape, waiting for everyone to rescue him at this location." Hearing that his son was in danger, Roy Boyle hastily led his men to prepare for the rescue. But Francis took the opportunity to stay behind. He told Roy Boyle that he would stay here to watch Leonard. What if this old man is lying? So Roy Boyle agreed. Just like that, after Roy Boyle left, Francis asked, "Who called just now?" Leonard said, "It was Roy Boyle's house. They said they still hadn't received any news about Richie." Hearing this, Francis immediately pointed his gun at Mabel and said that he would kill both of them now and blame everything on them. Leonard quickly intervened and said, "You need her help." "Why would I need her help? Roy Boyle is about to fall into a trap." "Who is ambushing him?" "The Violet's people." "So how did the Violet's people know where to ambush him?" "Because Mabel will go and tell them." "Me?" "Yes." "Why me?" "Because you are the informant." Then Leonard recounted all his discoveries. It turned out that Mabel was indeed the informant. She was the one who led the Federal Bureau of Investigation's people to hide the listening device in the tailor shop, then intentionally approached Richie to extract the Boyle family's secrets. However, there was one thing she didn't anticipate, and that was the mysterious organization, the Outfit. So Mabel decided to take a gamble and reveal the secret to the Violet family, hoping that the two gangs would slaughter each other, because then no one would pay attention to her anymore. "You guys have your ways, I have mine. You're really the informant? All my life I've seen you people bleed this neighborhood dry. I dream of sitting in a cafe in Paris, reading news of your funerals in the paper. You stole the tape?" "No, I did." Leonard then took out a tape from a suit he had sewn shut. Mabel said, "So you knew all along." Then, while Francis was stunned, Leonard told him that he now had two choices: either kill him and Mabel now, or let Mabel inform the Violet family so their people could deal with Roy Boyle. If Roy Boyle didn't find his son there when he returned, it might be the moment they all lost their lives. And if they informed the Violet family, causing Roy Boyle to be unable to return, who would succeed Roy Boyle as the boss of the Boyle family? Clearly, only Francis, the second in command, would be qualified. Therefore, after Leonard analyzed the pros and cons for him, Francis immediately agreed to his proposal. So Mabel used secret code to report Roy Boyle's location to the Violet family. After Mabel reported, she told the two that the boss of the Violet family said on the phone that he wanted to buy the tape with money. So Francis also took this opportunity to devise a plan. He would hide in the shadows, wait until the transaction was completed on the spot, and then immediately rush out and kill the opposing boss. That way, he would become the sole and undisputed boss of this area. Not long after, the doorbell rang. The Violet's people had arrived. Unexpectedly, the boss of this family was a woman. These people weren't long-winded. After entering, they immediately wanted to deal directly. Moreover, they showed their sincerity first. Just then, Leonard suddenly stepped forward and said, "Isn't that a bit too little?" At the same time, he gestured, indicating that someone was ambushing them from behind. The Violet's people quickly became alert. At this moment, Francis inside vaguely felt something was wrong. He didn't think much and rushed out directly, but he was still shot at by the Violet's subordinate. Seeing himself betrayed by Leonard, Francis seized the opportunity to tell the woman in front of him that they could absolutely cooperate because he would lead the Boyle family in the future. However, the woman fundamentally refused to cooperate with such a person. At the same time, Leonard's voice suddenly rang out, "Madam, you don't need to be afraid of him." "Why?" "Because I had already removed all the bullets from his gun beforehand." Unexpectedly, Francis ultimately died at Leonard's hands. After dealing with Francis, Leonard also learned that Roy Boyle had died at the hands of the Violet family. From this point on, the Boyle family would cease to exist. So Mabel handed over the tape, letting the Violet family take it. Then, while talking with Mabel, she was still worried about being retaliated against by the Outfit, because this organization was too mysterious, too powerful. However, Leonard then pulled out another tape from a corner. It turned out that what the Violet family had just taken was only a tape recording Leonard's clothing measurements. This tape not only recorded the Boyle family's secrets, but also everything that happened tonight. If Mabel handed it over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Violet family would not escape punishment either. This was truly killing two birds with one stone. As for the so-called the Outfit organization, it had fundamentally never appeared. Everything was orchestrated by Leonard. He had deliberately impersonated the Outfit to set a trap for the Boyle family. Mabel didn't know why he did this. She also didn't ask. Finally, Leonard told Mabel to take the cash and leave. After handing over the tape to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, she should go to Paris, her favorite place. Just like that, Mabel said goodbye to Leonard. Finally, Leonard, dressed immaculately, also decided to leave. He poured kerosene all over the tailor shop. Just as he was about to burn the place down, Francis suddenly stood up in a strange way. Without a word, he fired 2 shots at Leonard. Leonard was hit in the arm, falling to the ground. But at this point, Francis was out of bullets. He then pulled out a dagger, intending to finish off Leonard. Leonard first ran everywhere to escape, then suddenly calmed down. He began to tell Francis about his background. It turned out that Leonard was a member of the Outfit. Disgusted by the bloodshed of the underworld, he had escaped and found another place to marry and have children. but they still wouldn't let him go. They found Leonard and set fire to his house, killing his wife and children. So Leonard, heartbroken and desperate, wandered to this place. On one hand, it was to escape the past, and on the other hand, he wanted to use his abilities to eliminate all the gangster organizations. When Francis advanced to kill Leonard, Leonard quickly pulled out his scissors and finished him off. With Francis's death, this charade finally came to a perfect end. On this beautiful sunny morning, Leonard walked out of the shop alone, preparing to go to his next destination. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching the film. What do you think of this film?